Hi, this is Scott Marshburn with eCabinets Tips and Tricks. This is part 2 on creating cabinet size report using the data from the sheet component listing from the workbook that eCabinets generates when you export the cut list into Excel. If you looked at Format eCabinets cut list in Excel part 2, you saw how I recorded the macros to do text to columns on the cabinet name and how I did all that. Now this is going to be a little bit different, so be sure you stick around so you can see how I did this. What I'm going to do first though is in the developer tab here, I'm going to record a macro. Now I've already recorded these macros, but what I would do would be to click on record macro, give that macro a name, and go through everything. So record macro and then give it a name, and we're going to do this in sections. So for example, this macro name would be cabinet size, but I've already recorded all that, but I'm going to walk you through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the column C there, and I'm going to go to data and text to columns, and now I want to make sure I got delimited selected. I'm going to go next, and I'm looking for capital X. So capital X is going to separate everything between the X's there. So I'm going to go finish, and I've got 3 columns here. Now I need to separate the depth there from the cabinet type. So I'm going to go text to columns, and this time I'm looking for the open parentheses. Now at this point I would stop recording that macro, okay, because I want to keep all this separate. It's going to make it a lot easier when we go to getting all this code into our main subroutine there. So I would start recording another macro now, and I would give that a name of something like remove underscore inch, something like that, something we can easily identify and know exactly what we're going to do in that macro. Now I've already done that, so I'm just going to click cancel, but I am going to walk you through what I'm about to do. I'm going to select column C here, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go to my find and select. I'm going to go to replace, and I want to find my inch symbol or my quote there in capital W. So I'm going to click on replace all, and it replaced those. So now I'm going to click on column D, and I'm going to change my W to a H, capital H, and replace all, and OK. And now in column E here, I'm going to change my H to a capital D and replace all of that, and OK. Now in column F, I want to find my close parentheses and replace all of that, and OK, and then close. Now I would go to my developer, stop recording that macro, and click on record macro again, and I would say something like convert numbers, something like that, something that we can easily identify. Now I've already done that, but I'm still going to walk you through this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select column A while my macro is recording, and I'm going to go to data, and I'm just going to use text to columns on that, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to click finish, and it converts that to a number. Text to columns and finish. So finish that. Now I would stop recording that. So I'd go developer, stop recording, and I would start recording another macro, which we're going to use for the name column here. So record macro and name it cabinet number or cabinet name. Now I've already recorded that, but I'm going to walk you through that. So because this one's a little bit different, I've highlighted the column while I'm recording the macro, and I'm going to go to data, text to columns, and make sure I got delimited checked, and I'm going to look for my dash here. So be dash and finish. Now we've got this column here that we need to pull any assembly cabinet names out of. In this case right here, if you look right here, the only thing I want is this A1 C1. So what I got to do before I do that is, again, while I'm recording my macro, I'm going to come over here to column J. I'm going to hold down my control and my shift key, and I'm going to go all the way to the very end of Excel. Now this column IV here, we need to remember that. But right now I'm just going to click anywhere in the field there, and I'm going to go clear contents. Okay, I don't necessarily want to delete the columns, I just want to clear the contents. So now I'm back over here to column I. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to do text columns and delimit it again, and next. And this time we're looking for the period. Okay, we're going to separate all this by looking for the period. So I'm going to hit my period, and I'm going to go finish. Now it took everything and put it where we wanted it. We got our BA1, C1, all that separated just like we want it. Now I want to get rid of this column. While I'm recording the macro, I'm going to make sure that I know I'm selecting column I there. So even though it's already selected, I'm going to select it. Then I'm going to right click while I'm in the header there, and I'm going to click delete. And I'm going to do the same thing again. This is still column I, but I'm going to select it again, right click, and delete. Now this is where things get a little bit different. I would come in here and I would stop recording my macro, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a different method of getting all of this to over here. If you remember from the first video, part 1 of creating the cabinet size report, the whole goal in these two videos is to work with this worksheet without actually selecting anything. What I want to do is get into our cabinet size report code, which I've got right here, and this is what we've done in the last video. We're going to start off right here, text to columns to cabinet size. Now this is where recording these individual macros come in real handy. It's going to help us keep everything organized here. So I'm going to come over here to module 9 where I stored all my code, and now I want to do my text to column cabinet size first. So cabinet size macro, copy all this. So I'm going to select everything except for in sub, and I'm going to right click and copy. I'm going to come back into my cabinet size report module here, and I'm just going to paste that right in there. Now right here is where we selected column C. We don't want to select it, we just want to tell Excel to do this text to columns. So what I want to do is I'm going to change this columns here. If you remember in the first video, we set a variable for our cabinet size report worksheet. So I'm going to use this variable right here, CSRPT. Okay, I'm going to replace columns with that. So I'm going to say CSRPT dot range. Okay, and tab columns C there. Now I'm going to get rid of this dot select, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to double click on selection here, and I'm going to paste it right there. Paste. Now the only thing I need to do is come right down here to selection where we selected column E right here. See where we selected column E? I'm going to right click and paste, and I'm just going to change this to E. So E and E. Now I can delete my column selection there. Now right here is just where I selected range C1. We don't need that, so I'm just going to get rid of that too. Now the next thing we need to do is remove the inch symbol and the letters behind the measurements there in our closed parentheses. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find that code. Double click module and replace inch macro is what I'm wanting. And you can see how this is real easy to find. If you did all that in one macro, it could get quite confusing. So I'm going to copy this and come back into here to my cabinet size report, and I'm just going to paste that right there. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say csreport.range, tab, column C, get rid of the select, and I'm just going to copy this and paste. Now I'm going to pause the video here because I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but I just don't want to bore you with all the details. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to put it right here and right here and right here, and then I'm going to delete all this. So okay, so I've got all that changed. The only thing I need to do is come right here and delete these because we don't need those anymore. And that takes care of that step there. Now, we need to use text columns to convert the numbers that are stored as text to numbers. And we're basically going to do the same thing. We're going to come in here to my module that I have my code stored in, my macros that I recorded. Right here, sub convert number. So I'm going to select all this, and I'm going to basically do the same thing. Everything up to, and actually I don't even need this range b1.select, so I'm not going to include that. I'm going to copy that and come back into my cabinet size report, and in step 10 here I'm going to paste it. And again, what I'm going to do is type in my CS report dot range and columns A there, get rid of my select, and I can just copy and paste all this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Pause the video again, and I'm just going to come in here and put it right there and change my column A to column C, column D, column E, and so on. Okay, so I got all that done. The only thing I need to do is get rid of this and this. Get rid of any instance that you're selecting anything after you've changed the selection there. Now, right down here, columns C through E dot select selection dot number format equals pound sign question mark backslash question mark. I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it, okay, and I'm going to put it down here in step 11. This is where we convert the cabinet sizes to fractions up to 2 digits. And I'm going to change this selection right here to cabinet size report RPT there dot range and tab and dot number format equals that. So my range is going to be column C through E. So I'm going to go parentheses, quote, C, colon, and E, and end quote. So I need quote here, quote, and then in parentheses. Dot number format equals this. So now I can get rid of this, and we're coming along here. So text to columns cabinet name. I'm going to come in here and grab that. So module 9, text to columns cabinet name macro there. Select you and right click and copy. Come into cabinet size report and put that in there and paste. So we got all that, and we need to do exactly the same thing. Just change this to CS RPT dot range and tab columns H. Get rid of dot select there and control C, double click, control V. Let me go ahead and get these, control V and control V and control V. Now I just need to come up here. That one is right, so I can delete this. And columns J select range selection. Okay, that's something right there we got to deal with in just a second. Let me change this to I and get rid of you. Columns I select. Okay, I just need to change this to I. This is where we're deleting that column. And remember, we did it twice, so I need to do it twice here. So I and I. Get rid of the select code there. Now let's come up here and deal with this one. We're saying all of columns J there dot select range selection dot n xl2 right dot select, and that's where we just held down our control and shift key and hit our right arrow key and went all the way to the end of Excel. So the only thing I need to do right here is change this to IV, okay, and go CS report, dot range, tab, and change this to dot clear contents. Double click on clear contents here. Now all this we don't even need, so delete that. Now that should take care of everything on that. What I'm going to do here is I got some code already in here that I have commented out. I'm going to uncomment that code and walk you through it. So I'm going to click my uncomment block there, and I got a for next loop. And if you watch part 1 on this series, you saw how we used the for next loop using the X as a variable for the current row that we're on in our loop, and where I've got it set here to start at row 2, and we're going to the last row. Now I've got my code in here for last row. It's already been executed right here. Now if you haven't watched that video, check it out, because I'll show you exactly how to do all that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for X equals 2 to last row, and what I've got is my variable here for my cabinet size report, CSRPT dot sales parentheses X, which is the current row we're on in the loop, and column B there surrounded by quotes, and all this is in parentheses, equals cabinet size report dot sales, okay, parentheses X, comma, and then column H there in parentheses, and then I'm joining that with an ampersand and cabinet size report dot sales parentheses X, comma, I surrounded by quotes and parentheses. Now what that's doing is it's just taking what is in the loop there. We're going to start out in row 2. It's going to take whatever's in here and whatever's in here, combine those two into one string, and put it in the current row in column B. So let's put a stop marker right here and run our code up to that point. So I'm going to hit my run button, and you can see that we got everything in here. So I'm going to hit F8 and step through this. You see we're putting cabinet number in that column. So I'm going to go ahead and put a stop marker right here, because I want to talk about what's down there a little bit, and go ahead and run the code and see if it works for us. And you can see that it did. We got our batch number BA1 and BAC1 and so on and so forth. Now let's see right here. What we're going to do is we're just simply going to take column B, the header row here, B1, and we're going to put name in there. We're going to go to C1 and we're going to put width, and in D1 we're going to put height, and in E1 we're going to put depth, and in F1 we're going to put type. And notice how I've got this surrounded by quotes here. That's important that you do that when you're doing text. But the way that code reads is cabinet size report, our variable there, CSRPT dot sales parentheses 1, okay, which is row 1, comma, and column B equals name. And the same thing right here, CS report dot sales row 1, column C equals width, and then column D equals height, and then column E equals depth, and column F equals type. So if you watch over here, you'll see it put it in there. F8, 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 and F8. Now this next line of code that we're on right here, the only thing I'm doing is taking columns H through I. So CS report, CSRPT dot range, parentheses quote H colon I, end quote, in parentheses dot entire column dot clear contents. We're just wiping out all this data right here that we don't need anymore. So if I hit F8, you'll see that it disappears forever. F8, and it is gone. Now right here I've got application.screenUpdating equals false. This needs to be true. That needs to be true. And what I've done is I've added this in here. I took at the very beginning of my code, right here after sub cab size report, I just typed in application dot screen updating equals false. Okay, that turns off screen updating. And down here, since I had it turned off, I've got to turn it back on. Okay, so if I go F8, it is turning it back on, and now we're activating the cabinet size report. Just in case it's not activated. Now you don't have to have that if you don't want it, but I got it in there. So let's test this code out. I'm going to clear out all my data in here, and I'm going to get on another worksheet. Now, we should be able to do this without accessing anything. The only time it's going to be on that cabinet size report is when everything is done. So I'm going to hit my run button, no errors, and activated it, and everything looks good. So let's try deleting the worksheet, okay? So we're going to delete the worksheet, and we're going to run the code again. Let's see if it works. Run, and for sure it did. So that's all looking good. Now let's try hiding that joker and see if it works. Control Shift over and down, and clear contents. Now I'm just showing you this when the worksheet's hidden, because the whole goal in these two videos is to show you how you can create code that you don't even have to be on the worksheet. And as a matter of fact, the worksheet does not even have to be visible at all. So let's try that out and make sure it works. I'm going to run my code, and you can see it done something. It did it real quick, and our worksheet is still hidden. So let's unhide that. I'm going to right click and unhide, and click OK, and there's our cabinet size report. Now in another video, I'm going to show you how you can create a summary where you can total up the total length of all your upper cabinets, your base cabinets, your tall cabinets, your corner cabinets, and etc. We're going to be using the sum if statement. So make sure you stay tuned for that video. And hey, if this video helped you, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe so you can get all my latest tips and tricks. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a good day.